in matters of food and drink, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in fact, subhanallah, addresses the entire humanity when He says, "O mankind, Ya ayyuhan nas, eat of what is permissible and good on earth." It is what is permissible and what is good on earth, and do not follow the footsteps of shaitan. Truly, he is an open adversary to you. Because shaitan is the one who pulls people to the paths of haram. And so Allah Azza wa Jal is warning us not to follow the footsteps of shaitan. But here it is an address to everyone, to mankind, to eat of what is permissible and what is good on earth. That is His creation. And then He says in the next verse, a few verses later, 172 to 173, this is in Surah Al-Baqarah, "O you who believe, eat of the good things that we have provided for you, and be grateful to Allah, if it is Him that you worship." Subhanallah. Eat, كُلُوا مِن طَيِّبَاتِ مَا رَزَقْنَاكُمْ. Eat of what we have provided for you. And وَاشْكُرُوا اللَّهِ, and be thankful to Allah. And then look at that following, if it is Him that you worship. إِن كُنْتُمْ إِيَّاهُ تَعْبُدُونَ. If you truly claim that you worship Allah, then you should do this. Otherwise, your claim of worshipping Allah, there is a question mark on it. Nobody can claim to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and live in His obedience and yet breaks the rules of Allah. And so He has only forbidden you. So these are in matters of meat, of animals. He says He has only forbidden you dead meat and blood, which means drinking of blood, and the flesh of swine, that is pigs or pork, and that on which any other name has been invoked besides that of Allah. This is, even if an animal was slaughtered visibly in a proper manner from somebody observing, but yet during that process of taking the life of the animal for the purpose of consumption, if a name other than Allah was invoked during that process, it renders the meat of that animal haram. That's why it is crucial when we say what is dhabiha or what is halal meat. It is this that makes a halal meat halal and what makes a meat not halal. And so if we are not sure that Allah's name or other name have been invoked, and we cannot say that with certainty, then what applies is the very first item that we said, which is what is doubtful is to be avoided. We should stay away from those things. Although no one can say that chicken is haram, but that the way that chicken was prepared to become meat for consumption may render it doubtful if not haram, and we should stay away because alhamdulillah there are alternatives. And then we continue, but if one is forced by necessity, and this is what we say, necessity dictates exemptions, but if one is forced by necessity, neither craving for it, which means here any of these items, if one found himself or herself at circumstances of necessity, where there is absolutely no other food except these, and there is danger to die from hunger, Allah Azza wa Jal said, but if one is forced by necessity, neither craving for it, which means I have no desire for these 4 items to eat because Allah has made them haram. But you find ourselves in situations where there is no other alternative, so you are not craving for it to eat it, nor transgressing due limits, nor are we doing so with the intention to break the law of Allah, then it becomes permissible. There is no sin of him, for Allah, Ra'ufun Rahim, is oft forgiving and merciful. So this is the rule on the exception, and we will come to it inshallah in the next slide. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, again, this is in the category of animal meat, explains in the Quran that no food is haram except the 4 kinds mentioned in the verse before it and the verse below here, that is in Surah Al-An'am, verse 145. And the same 4 are mentioned in other greater details in other places in the Quran. In this verse, in Surah Al-An'am, the cattle, verse 145, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I do not find. I means the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is talking. It's in the person of the prophets, as if tell them, O Muhammad, I do not know, or I do not find in what is revealed to me anything of meat forbidden to be eaten by one who wishes to eat it, unless it be the flesh of that which is dead, or flowing blood, or the flesh of swine, for it is an abomination, or what is impious, that means meat on which the name other than Allah has been invoked during slaughtering. But even so, again the exception, if a person is forced by necessity, without willful disobedience, nor transgressing due limits, your Lord is oft forgiving and most merciful. Almost the same verse as in Surah Al-Baqarah. But here what is interesting, subhanAllah, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is being told to tell people, I do not find in what was revealed to me anything unlawful except this, which is really, it is a reflection of the restriction of the space of what is haram, and the merciful of Allah, the vastness of the space of what is halal. So tell them, I do not find anything in what is revealed to me haram except these. And so this is in matters of meats of animal. Of course, cattle, that is, farm cattle. Seafood is exempted. Fish of all kinds and of all sorts. There is no haram in all fish of all kinds of all sorts. Any fish that comes out of seawater is halal. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says its water is pure. He's talking about al-bahr, the ocean of its water is pure and its dead are halal, which means Muslims are not to slaughter fish. You catch a fish, it's dead, it's ready for consumption and it's fine. And all kinds of fish. This is the general rule. All prohibition apply to situations in which one has a choice. And as we said, if need arises to alleviate hunger which may cause death, scholars agree that one should pass 1 day and 1 night without food. And then after that, the rule of necessity can be applied. And then he is allowed or she is allowed to eat as much as necessary to save life. Which means because there is the other duty, saving life is another duty. And if someone dies while he has access to these 4, he will die as a kafir. He dies in disobedience of Allah, because Allah has permitted these and he or she chose not to do it. That is a denial of a permission that Allah has given. And if death comes as a consequence of hunger, then that death, the person shall be made accountable for not preserving his or her life. So that is the balance that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us.